to Stan Stonecker, who is founding director of Hub Culture, and you're involved with the data group, which is looking to self-regulate the emerging market for cryptocurrencies. So can you give us a little bit of background about the history of data and how this group came about?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me in. So data came about from a series of conversations that have been happening among leaders in the virtual currency and what we call the digital asset industry. So over the last year, this new kind of thing has emerged into being a real business and being a real asset class. And we see the emergence of an asset class, whether it's virtual or as some people would think of, in the older financial markets. We see that needing to have some level of cohesion and some level of standards for it to be able to really go mainstream. And bringing virtual currency mainstream is a big focus of this organization, making sure that the way that it goes mainstream and the way that it grows can be very helpful and beneficial, not just for society, but for the people that are creating them.
A lot of press around cryptocurrencies, and especially Bitcoin, which gets a lot of the press, is about this sort of anarcho-liberal, uncentralized, non-sovereign, frictionless currency. You know, and this group that you're involved with is trying to put together a self-regulatory overseer. You know, how do you gel the philosophy between starting data and the perception of how cryptocurrencies works? Like, how does that work?
Well, I think there's no doubt that these types of assets are far more efficient than what we've seen in the past in terms of their ability to exchange, the cost for them to exchange, the way that they're organized, and they're really internet-based assets. And whether it's Bitcoin or Ven or Ripple or any of a number of other digital assets that are emerging on the web, it's very true that there needs to be some level of coordination to make sure that these things are successful. So, with Bitcoin in particular, it does have this kind of anacro reputation, and it is decentralized. And the decentralization and the anonymity is something that has had a lot of press. But on the other side, in many ways, Bitcoin is actually very transparent. With every transaction, there's something called a blockchain, and there's a list of keys which represent those transactions. So in a way, even though it is very much what many people think of as anonymized in crypto, on the other side, it's actually very secure and it's actually very transparent. And the reality is that data isn't just about Bitcoin. Data is about really creating some level of cohesion and standards across a wide variety of these types of digital assets. So Ven, the currency that we manage, Ripple, and there are a lot of other things coming down the pipe. And beyond currency, there are other types of digital assets that are emerging that are, kind of too difficult to really explain here. And I think that the role and the mission of data isn't to try and stamp out or to try and kind of control anything. It's really about bringing people together to try and create the right standards and to send the right message and the right level of cooperation with regulators. And so on the regulatory front, you have across the world now a lot of interest in these types of assets and these types of currencies. And there's a huge amount of potential good that these things can do. So whether you're talking about financial inclusion for the 2.5 billion people coming online who don't speak English, don't have a bank account, and don't have a credit card, or if you're talking about just being able to move money easily and with less hassle. There's so many great things that digital currencies provide an opportunity for. But at the same time, there are a lot of forces out there that want to make sure that these things are being done the right way. And, the idea of kind of decentralized, totally anonymous financial system is very attractive to some people, but it's also very unattractive to other people. And I think that hopefully the role of data will be to be a collective point where people can come together and figure out the best way forward for these standards.
So, I mean, there has been some, a lot of interest from governments, especially the U.S. government, on regulating sort of digital currency-based companies and exchanges in an effort to combat money laundering. And, is there a fear that if the industry doesn't band together to self-regulate, that regulation will come from other areas? Is that one of the reasons behind the founding?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, the reality is that we would like to see the people and the institutions that are creating this new generation of assets have a seat at the table in terms of talking about how they're going to be regulated. And the reality is that whether actors like it or not, other people are interested in this category and they want to see some level of responsibility. And I think that responsible actors act responsibly. As they say, sunlight disinfects, right? And so I think the role of data is to shine a little bit of sun on the cloud, so to speak, and to make sure that people are acting correctly. Now, that doesn't mean that we're trying to control, or that the group is trying to control what's happening, and it doesn't mean that everybody will join or be a part of data. But I think by taking a really strong step forward to set standards and to really talk about the legitimacy of these assets, we can do a lot of good for the industry. And we'd rather it be us than someone else coming in and saying you have to do this or you have to do that, for people who don't really even understand the mechanics of these assets and could potentially turn off a lot of the benefits that they present.
That's great. Thank you very much.